August 2026. The Taiwan Strait. It begins not with a declaration, not with a speech. It begins at 3:47 in the morning when 180 Chinese amphibious vessels cross the median line of the Taiwan Strait simultaneously. No warning, no ultimatum, just ships, hundreds of them moving in the dark. Taiwan's early warning systems light up within seconds. The call goes to Taipei. Taipei calls Washington. Washington calls every NATO ally, every Pacific commander, every aircraft carrier within range. The world has 48 hours before this becomes something nobody can stop. The Chinese plan is built around speed. Beijing has war-gamed this invasion for 30 years. The calculation is simple. Take the island before America can respond. Make the cost of intervention higher than the cost of acceptance. Present the world with a fait accompli before the United Nations can even schedule a meeting. 6,000 People's Liberation Army soldiers hit the beaches of northwestern Taiwan in the first wave. Chinese paratroopers drop on Taoyuan Airport outside Taipei. The goal is the capital. Take Taipei in 72 hours. Force the government to surrender. End the war before it starts. Taiwan's military is ready, not because they knew the exact date, but because they have been preparing for this moment for decades. Every beach is mined. Every landing zone is pre-targeted by artillery. The first Chinese landing craft that opens its ramp is destroyed before a single soldier steps onto the sand. The beaches become a massacre, but China has numbers that Taiwan does not. Wave after wave of landing craft. More soldiers than Taiwan has ammunition to kill. The first beachhead is established at 6 a.m., the second by noon. By nightfall of the first day, 20,000 PLA soldiers are ashore on the western coast. Taipei does not fall, but the city is surrounded on three sides by nightfall of day 2. Washington moves. The orders go out within the first hour. 3 carrier strike groups already positioned in the western Pacific begin moving toward the strait. The USS Ronald Reagan, the USS Carl Vinson, the USS Theodore Roosevelt, 160 aircraft between them. Tomahawk missile batteries activated across Japan, Guam, the Philippines. The question in Washington is not whether to respond. It is whether responding starts a war that cannot be stopped. The president authorizes interdiction of Chinese naval forces threatening civilian shipping, a legal framework that means, in practice, that American warships are now in the Taiwan Strait and Chinese warships are on the other side. On day 3, a Chinese destroyer fires on a U.S. Navy P-8 surveillance aircraft over international waters. The aircraft goes down. 11 crew members are killed. Congress votes for war before the sun sets. The air battle over the Taiwan Strait is unlike anything since the Second World War. China has spent 20 years building anti-access systems specifically designed to keep American carriers away from Taiwan. DF-21 anti-ship ballistic missiles, DF-26 intermediate range missiles, hypersonic glide vehicles that travel at Mach 10 and cannot be intercepted by any system currently deployed. The USS Carl Vinson takes 2 missile hits on day 4, not sunk, but burning. 400 casualties. The carrier limps toward Japan. America has not lost a carrier since 1945. The images of the Carl Vinson on fire are broadcast worldwide within minutes. Every government on Earth watches and makes a calculation. Japan watches and makes its calculation first. Japanese territory is directly in the flight path of Chinese missiles targeting American bases. 2 Chinese ballistic missiles aimed at Kadena Air Base in Okinawa malfunction and impact Japanese soil. 11 Japanese civilians are killed. Japan invokes its mutual defense treaty with the United States and enters the war. Japanese F-35s and U.S. Air Force assets combined launched the largest air campaign in the Pacific since 1944. Chinese air defense systems in Fujian province are systematically destroyed. The People's Liberation Army Air Force suffers catastrophic losses in the first 72 hours of combined American and Japanese air operations. But China has a reserve that most war planners underestimated. 1,500 ballistic missiles aimed at every American and Japanese base in the region, every airfield, every port, every fuel depot. They launched them all in a single 48-hour campaign. The destruction across Okinawa, Japan's southern islands, and Guam is staggering. American air operations slow, resupply chains become critically strained. South Korea watches its bases get hit by missiles that were supposedly aimed elsewhere. Seoul is 40 miles from the North Korean border. Kim Jong-un sees an opportunity that has never existed before. American attention divided, American assets destroyed, American credibility shaken. North Korean artillery opens up on day 7, 1 million.
Shells in the first 24 hours. Seoul takes damage that has not been seen on the Korean peninsula since 1950. South Korean and U.S. forces Korea begin the counteroffensive within hours. But 1 million shells aimed at a city of 10 million people is not a military event, it is a catastrophe. The Korean front opens as a second war inside the larger war.
NATO watches all of this from Europe and begins the most consequential vote in the alliance's history. Article 5 covers attack on a NATO member. Taiwan is not a NATO member. Japan is a U.S. treaty ally, but not NATO. The legal basis for European involvement is contested in every capital simultaneously. Germany, France, and Italy argue for restraint. Poland, the Baltic states, and the United Kingdom argue that restraint now means capitulation later. Russia watches the debate and decides that this is the moment. Moscow has spent 2 years moving forces toward the borders of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. 3 NATO members, 3 countries that were part of the Soviet Union, 3 countries that Russian military planners have war-gamed continuously since 2004. Russian forces cross into Estonia on day 11. The NATO alliance is now at war on 2 continents simultaneously. European air forces scramble. American forces already stretched across the Pacific now face a European theater that requires its own carrier groups, its own air assets, its own ground forces that were already in the region but never sized for a full Russian conventional offensive. The Baltic states hold, not easily. The fighting in Tallinn is brutal. Street by street, the Estonian military and NATO rapid reaction forces against a Russian army that has spent 2 years rebuilding after Ukraine. But they hold. The critical moment comes on day 14. Russian armored columns trying to reach Riga are stopped at the Daugava River by a combination of Estonian and Latvian resistance, American air support diverted from the Pacific, and a Polish armored brigade that drives north at maximum speed and hits the Russian flank without warning. The Russian column loses 300 vehicles in 6 hours and stops.
The decision is made in Washington. Push. American columns cross the Rhine on June 28, 1940. German infantry fights hard. These are not cowards, they are soldiers who believe in what they are doing. But belief does not stop a Javelin missile. Courage does not jam a satellite targeting system. City by city, the map changes. Frankfurt, Stuttgart, Munich. German civilians watch American vehicles roll through streets and cannot understand what they are looking at. The machines are from a world that does not exist yet. Berlin. Hitler refuses to leave. American Special Forces units, Delta Force, and Navy SEALs are given a mission that changes the entire course of this war. They do not bomb Berlin. They go in quietly. 3 nights after American columns reach the outskirts of the city, a small team penetrates the Führer bunker through a route that German security never imagined needed defending. The war ends not with a massive battle for Berlin. It ends in a basement. By July 15, 1940, exactly 1 month after the first F-35 appeared over Germany, the Nazi government collapses. The Eastern Front that never happens. In our timeline, Germany invades the Soviet Union in June 1941. Operation Barbarossa, the most destructive military campaign in human history. 30 million Soviet dead, entire cities starved and burned. In this timeline, there is no Operation Barbarossa, because there is no Nazi Germany. Stalin watches what happens to the German army and goes completely quiet. His intelligence services cannot explain the American weapons. His generals tell him the Germans were destroyed faster than Poland fell in 1939. He signs a non-aggression pact with the United States in August 1940 and does not move for a decade. 30 million people who died in our timeline are alive. The Pacific problem. Japan has been watching everything. In our timeline, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor in December 1941, calculating that America is too weak and too slow to fight a Pacific war. In this timeline, Japan watched the United States destroy the most powerful army in Europe in 30 days. The Japanese War Council meets in September 1940. The vote on attacking America is unanimous. No, Japan quietly withdraws from its alliance with Germany and begins negotiating trade agreements with Washington instead. There is no Pearl Harbor. There is no Pacific War. There is no atomic bomb dropped on Japan. The world in 1945. Stop and look at what exists. World War II, the conflict that killed 70 million people in our timeline, lasts less than 2 months. Europe is not in ruins. The great cities, Dresden, Warsaw, Stalingrad, Rotterdam, were never destroyed. The Holocaust, which murdered 6 million people, was stopped before it reached its full machinery of death. The Marshall Plan is not needed because Europe was never leveled. The Cold War never develops the way it did, because Soviet expansion into Eastern Europe never happens. Germany is occupied but not divided. There is no Berlin Wall, no Iron Curtain, no Cuban Missile Crisis. The world America accidentally built. Here's the problem nobody expected. America won too fast and too completely. With no Cold War to organize around, no Soviet threat to unite against, the Western alliance fractures immediately. France, Britain, the liberated nations of Europe, they have their freedom, but they have no common enemy to focus on. Political chaos spreads across the continent. Germany, occupied but not destroyed, begins rebuilding faster than anyone expected. By 1950, German engineers, who in our timeline went to NASA and the Soviet space program, are working on technologies a decade ahead of schedule. Japan, which never fought a Pacific War, never lost a generation of men. Its economy explodes in the 1950s, even faster than our timeline. The world of 1960 looks nothing like the world we know. No NATO, no Warsaw Pact, no nuclear arms race.